Okay, folks, it's your buddy, Mike Messier. It's a Sunday afternoon. I'm getting a late start in my day, but I like to say, I like this expression on days like this when I have a late start. Second half comeback. I will have a second half comeback. I'm gaining momentum. I'm refocusing and all that crap, and I'm going to have a second half comeback. I'm preparing to gather my second win. Some might ask, Mike, why do you make these shaking noises with your drink when you've started your podcast, StreamYard? Well, I don't know. But feel free to leave a comment, a question. This is live, everyone. This is Sunday at whatever the time it is, 1:45. Now, I just saw some current events. Michael Jordan's son, Jeffrey, 32 years old, I believe the eldest son, the older son of Juanita and Michael Jordan. And this, I'm not sure, I didn't do a background check on Jeffrey, but apparently he fell in a bar last night, hit the back of his head. Police were already at the bar for a separate incident with nothing to do with Jeffrey. When they saw Jeffrey hit his head, I guess they took him to the hospital. And while at the hospital, Jeffrey apparently had some type of physical attack on the hospital staff, a physical altercation. Obviously, he's the patient, they're the professionals. So he's been charged apparently with some type of assault or misdemeanor or something on this hospital staff. And folks, look, in this day and age of what we're all going through, the hospital staff, they've got to be really careful. So they don't want people beating them up or attacking them and things that maybe would have flown in a different era. The hospital staff would have just tolerated such things, but in this day and era, then they're not going to tolerate it. Chungus Khan with a woo woo. Thanks, Chungus. So what do I have to say about this? I guess when I saw the initial report, first of all, I hope Jeffrey Jordan gets better. I hope he maybe he hurt his head so bad he was confused. Maybe he had a concussion. Who knows? But I mean, you got to say, why are you falling off a stool in the middle of a bar? Maybe because you had too many drinks, right? Who knows? I wasn't there, but I mean, if you're at a point in life where you're the son of Michael Jordan, and you probably have everything easier, you know what I mean? Well, I understand that he hit the back of his head, but the next thing, Chungus, was that he went to the hospital. They took him to the hospital, and he assaulted apparently the hospital staff. I don't think the hospital staff would just randomly charge him or accuse him of attacking them unless something happened. But hey, I wasn't there, buddy, so I don't know, Chungus. I mean, if you have more details for me, I've never heard, to be honest with you, I've never heard of anything good, bad, or indifferent with Jeffrey Jordan before, and maybe that's the problem. My point I'm getting to, Chungus, is I think some of these second generation celebrities, when they don't make a mark in the world like their father or their mother have, they kind of rebel. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm thinking of other celebrity children. I guess I always go to maybe the John Lennon had two sons, Sean and Julian had like one or two big hits, Much Too Late for Goodbyes and something else. And Julian, that was Julian. And the other one, Yoko's son, uh, had some god awful music. So my point being that I think some of these second generation celebrities, if they're not able to build upon the fame of their family, like a Drew Barrymore successfully has, Jolie successfully has, if they're not able to build upon the success of their ancestor, what's going on, Eric? It's a current events day, Eric. We're not going to do wrestling off the get go, but maybe I'll get into that in a minute. But if these second generation celebrities aren't capable or don't have the inherent talent to do something with their lives of interest, maybe they get in trouble with the law or with other things as a way of getting some notoriety. And notoriety, if you look it up, folks, is being known for being bad. A lot of times people confuse notoriety. They think having notoriety, it's like being notorious. You're known for something bad. So people often misuse the word notoriety. If you look it up, it has a negative connotation, which most people don't use it properly like I do. So what can I say about Jeffrey Jordan? Look, I'm not going to sing a song about it. His problems aren't going to affect me in any goddamn way, but it's just more celebrity fodder for the fire, right? You know what I mean? You think about guys, we saw this, God, I always go into wrestling when someone like Eric chimes in because I know it's the candy you need. But this Dark Side of the Ring episode with Chris Kanyon, I didn't do any videos about that. But, what can I say? Chris Kanyon had things going his way. And then, like a lot of people from WCW to WWF, he had a hard time making the transition. They did put the U.S. title on him and the tag team title, one of the tag team titles. I forgot all about that. I feel that the John Cena and Ric Flair hate, it's a little mistimed. If people were really thinking about this, they would have thought about it 10 years ago. Let's see what Chungus has to say. Good to have you in here, Chungus. Yeah, kind of, yeah. Searching for the limelight that their parents had, no matter if they look bad or not. Ain't such a thing as bad publicity. Good point. You haven't seen that Kanyon episode yet, but he was known as a sweetheart person. Fame is a poison. It's a good poison. It's a bad poison. You know what I mean? So we're talking about a lot of things: celebrity interaction with life. There's a sense of entitlement, guys. I've hung out with some celebrities, some athletes, former athletes. I'm thinking of one in particular, and my buddy had a real issue. He was a guy who was very famous for a while, and he had what I call the triangle of terror for him, which was gambling, women, and alcohol. No drugs, no crime, but his triangle of temptation was gambling, women, and alcohol. And look, nothing wrong with women, but he couldn't stick to one nice girlfriend. And this guy had a pick of women, but he always had to have more and different. You know what I mean? Raven was one of the first. He came out too, and yeah. Well, you're talking about Chris Kanyon coming out of the closet, just to coming out of the Raven. Just to clarify Eric's statement here, Raven Scott Levy is heterosexual. He's got a model wife, literally a model wife. But Chris Kanyon was homosexual. That's true. And I guess he felt like he had to be a tough guy, and he had to be a tough New York, New Jersey guy, and was a wrestler. And I mean, it's kind of a weird thing that in the wrestling business where, as Bill Goldberg would say, we're half-naked men rolling around in our underwear. But there's still a machismo thing back then. And it's a sad story. The Chris Kanyon thing was very sad. Ultimately, guys, though, no offense to anyone, it wasn't John Cena that killed Chris Kanyon, and it wasn't Ric Flair that killed Chris Kanyon. Chris Kanyon, unfortunately, did that to himself and left behind a lot of people. Yeah, it was interesting, Chungus. I'm glad you saw the episode, buddy. Sinister Minister had a lot to say about poor old Kanyon. And it's funny because the Sinister Minister, his character on TV never really resonated with me wherever he was, TNA, WCW, ECW. I never really liked that character. I thought he was kind of goofy and kind of a weird, like, 80s way, but transported into the 90s. But as a person, I fully liked what he had to say on the show. He missed his friend. He was very forgiving of his friend, even when his Kanyon was strangling him. So I liked it. Hey, Jack, good old buddy Jack Shipley. Good guy here, Jack. We're talking current events. Jeffrey Jordan's son arrested was my original point. Then I kind of we segued into Chris Kanyon, which was a television show this past week, Dark Side of the Ring, this tragic pro wrestler who was a homosexual wrestler and ended up committing suicide. Eric liked the Sinister Minister. Other current events. This is going to get kind of not dark, but kind of dark. I guess there was a policeman shooting last night in Florida, not too far from me. A police officer pulling a guy over, ends up getting shot and I guess killed. A horrible situation. And here's the thing, folks. The medical professional, going back to the Jeffrey Jordan thing, this police officer, look, we had a year and a half here of riots, protests, people talking about defunding the police and so forth. But here's the problem. if you're in a situation that's negative or bad or scary, and you pick up the phone, you're not calling your buddy, you're calling the cops, right? Maybe not you specifically, but most people, they're going to call the police. You know what I mean? So, yes, the origins of the police are not that great. A friend of mine has informed me that the original police were basically guys hired to round up slaves, runaway slaves. So I don't know all the exact history, but there is some definite flaws in the system. However, this is the system we have. So when we talk about defund the police or take away the police guns and stuff, I have mixed feelings. It's kind of like, what would this look like? And it's like our society is so far gone down a certain path. It's hard to say we should switch that path right now altogether. But I don't know. I mean, I don't have all the answers. The person that I would like to have voted for president wasn't really eligible. Tulsi Gabbard, I always get her name wrong, but the Hawaiian, I believe, former Hawaiian governor. Tulsi's a Democrat, but a lot of things, like she was talking on Fox News the other day about the border crisis, and she was really critical of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, president and vice president. Tulsi Gabbard, folks, in my book, should really be someone we look at to be the president, but she's too good. Like, she speaks too well. She's too intelligent, and that's the president that I would like to have. I mean, she's pretty gorgeous too. If you ever saw that movie, the Charlize Theron, I think it was called the Long Shot. Thanks, Chungus. Chungus is agreeing with me. Oh, right, she's pretty cool. Talking about Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, I thought about writing this lady a letter or an email or whatever the fuck, and saying, how can I help? How can we get Tulsi into office? The problem is the way that our system is set up. Even if she were to go rogue and run Democrat and go third party instead of being a Democrat, the system with all the crap is not set up for a third party to even really win. So we're in a situation, folks, I would love to see in my lifetime before I'm in the fucking casket, like everybody ends up, or whatever, the incinerator. I'd like to see a third party, a real third party. And I guess what that means is they would have to win the presidency. And would that happen in my lifetime? Well, it's hard to see that right now. But if you look at history and you see like things like the Whig Party, I mean, George Washington, the days of the Whig Party, and how the Republican Party and the Democrat Party kind of flipped the sides of certain topics. It's very interesting, in my opinion. Maybe not in yours, but in mine it is. Oh boy. So what else, folks? Feel free to leave a comment. Yeah, you're right, Eric. Third parties aren't designed to work here, and they become a distraction. And this is what I hate to see. You ready? Well, your third party vote is a wasted vote. If you vote for Ross Perot, you're really taking a vote away from Bill Clinton, or you're taking a vote away from George Bush. Or if you vote for this other third party candidate, who was that guy that ran a bunch of times? Ralph Nader. Then you're screwing over one of the other parties, Chungus, once again. They never let her in office unless she bent the knee and obliged to uphold their bullshit agenda. I think you're saying bullshit, but I could be wrong. Um, and that's a sad case because Tulsi Gabbard is if you just look at this lady, I'm on her YouTube thing. I subscribe to her YouTube. Like I said, she's a Democrat, but there she is on Fox News. And the guy even asked her, "Are you still a Democrat?" Because he probably wants her to flip over to Republican. What's this, buddy? I get crap for being a centrist. I see the corruption in Dems and Republicans. Great comment, buddy. Great comment. And some of you might recall that I endorsed Jesse Ventura early, like in 2020, maybe May or something. I endorsed Ventura, but he didn't even run. What else can I bitch and complain about? The movies, gentlemen, Transformers. For those of you of a certain age group, Transformers, I missed it today. I got such a slow start, but the original Transformers movies from 35 years ago will be playing Tuesday, 7 p.m. at AMC Theaters, Regal Theaters. There's this other movie that's got a 10-year anniversary that I might see. This Evan Ginsberg movie, or it's not Evan Ginsberg, Evan Hansen movie. Shout out to Evan Ginsberg movies playing. Uh-oh. Chungus getting hardcore with me, buddy. You know, man, I hear you, bro, and I look into all that stuff too, Chungus. Trust me, I do, and it makes you think about stuff. And here's the thing: I'm out here. It's a beautiful day, and I'm still concerned. I'm going to show you the view. I'm telling you, that's why life is such a weird thing, because here I am enjoying my life, and I could just go and I could just be one of the marks and just enjoy life and not think about these big hardcore issues. But once you're informed, and I hate to use that fucking matrix thing, red pill, blue pill, whatever the fuck. But once you raise your consciousness to a certain level and you start thinking about things in a different way, you can't dumb yourself down anymore. That's why I'm cautious about the information I share with people. I'd rather just have these rants here with you gentlemen and women, uh, because it's like you have to be cautious with your information and who you share it with, because if you share all the things that are bubbling in your brain with every asshole that you meet, you might be like Jeffrey Jordan, fucking arrested. You know what I mean? You can't just share the information and facts with people, or even the speculation, because some people get afraid at mere speculation. Look into the Paul McCartney is dead thing. It's fascinating, and it's kind of an interesting thing. I'll give credit to Angelo from the old Wrestling with the Future podcast. Got me in touch with the Sage of Kwai, Mike Williams, and we did a show with Vince Russo, and we discussed the fucking Paul McCartney thing. And now I'm hooked on it. I'm hooked on the Sage of Kwai information, the memoirs of Billy Shears. It's a fascinating story to me. Maybe not to you, but to me it is, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, it's just, if you're looking for something to really go down the rabbit hole, as the kids say, look into The Sage of Kwai, look into the memoirs of Billy Shears. It's an audio book on Amazon. Or even when you thought of, or even when you post as a thought, one in almost fear of being doxxed. You're right, buddy. Eric is right. I mean, we live in an age, give CONRAD THOMPSON credit, a gotcha culture. We are in a gotcha culture, Chungus. You know what I mean? And we're in a culture where people want to gotcha. Right now, everybody feels like they're Sherlock fucking Holmes with this Brian Laundrie situation. You know, and I do want to clarify that in my pro wrestling rant the other day, I used the B word in reference to this poor girl, Gabby, but I was actually taking on the point of view, the perspective of the media when I said that. I was kind of in character and I felt bad. I almost self censored the video or asked Monty and the Pharaoh to edit it. If you haven't seen my rant, I've got two rants, the AEW apologist on Monty and the Pharaoh playlist, but please, I was not inferring that this young lady in any sense was a B. I was inferring that the media used her as basic cannon fodder for their press, just to clarify. You know what I mean? Well, here's the thing, Eric. I see what you're saying. Eric's got a good point. I'm not arguing with you, buddy. I just scroll past if I see a post I don't agree with. I guess I'm a little more cumbersome, as you know, the angry wrestling fan. I have chosen to argue with people. If I see ignorance, I choose to point it out. I feel at times it's my mission to awaken the giant within, like Tony Robbins, awaken the ignorant. But maybe it's not my job. You know what I mean? So I don't know what to say. Um, but you know, I do feel bad for this whole situation. The white woman syndrome, I think it's fascinating subtopic. I think, however, if Gabby was still 22 and say she was Latina or African American or Indian descent, but still a gorgeous young woman, and still had these videos, I'd like to think there would still be this media coverage, but I could be fucking wrong. I mean, I think it was Sonny Houston, and I'm going to talk about the goddamn View in a minute. What a day they had on Friday. But Sonny Houston kind of pointed out that she could feel like this young lady was her daughter, even though Sonny, you know, is not 100% Caucasian. I think she's biracial. But this young lady was killed, and she looks so sympathetic and all that. So I think men and women with their daughters especially, are going to start taking a second look at their choice of boyfriends. I take that back. If someone is bashing XYZ for signing to AEW from WWE, I argue. Very good, Eric. But you know what? When I think about, and I do have thoughts on this thing, because almost despite myself, I find myself like everyone else looking at the videos, trying to figure out this Brian Laundrie thing. I'm in Florida, any moment now. This is what my point. God, I forgot my own point. The guy that killed the cop last night, the police officer, looks like Brian Laundrie's buddy. Like, they have the same type of head. They're both kind of balding with like a brown beard and mustache. If you look at the guy, if you look up Florida police officer killed last night at a shop, at a stop, and you look up Brian Laundrie, they're cut from the same cloth, as they say. The Brian Adidas Kerry Von Erich syndrome. Very interesting. So, anyway, guys, I'm full of piss and vinegar today. I didn't get much sleep. A friend of mine purchased me a macchiato. I don't know if I'll ever have a macchiato at midnight again, because I was up till 8 in the morning. Now I'm low on sleep. I'm full of piss and vinegar and oil and all that shit that people get full of. What else could I rant about? Current events. Here's the thing, guys. I'm here. I'm sharing these current events with you. Uh, Talking about, now that you brought up Dark Side of the Ring, I hope they don't peg Anita in a bad light. When I get all worked up about this type of stuff, it's like a cauldron of crap in my mind. But what I tend to do, gentlemen, is I forget that I'm writing a book. I mean, I've got my rough draft here, my screenplay that I'm converting. You can find it, Fight or Play Basketball, on Kindle Vella. It's a great book that I'm writing. And it's like, if I were to extract myself from all the outside influences and I could just sit in a cabin and write my books, the world would probably be a better place. But I get distracted by the current events, the distractions, as the Ultimate Warrior said. Have you seen that the chief medical examiner, Michael Baden, examining the Gabby Petito linked remains? He was the chief medical examiner for JFK and Epstein too. Holy shit, Chungus. Great point. I have not seen that. Wow. I'll be honest with you, folks. I mean, I don't want to go down this conspiracy road, because I feel that this young lady, most likely, Onita's a unique person, but he's a great man at age 63. Still doing his gimmicks. Going back to this thing. Okay, look. I don't think it's a whole big made up thing, just to clarify. But this young lady, she had the Let It Be tattoo, which is a Beatles reference. If you're into that Paul is Dead conspiracy theory, like I kind of am, and you see someone with a Beatles Let It Be tattoo, it has a certain connotation. You're talking about the last, I believe, released album from the Beatles, or the last recorded album, one or the other. Some of the photographs of Gabby are basically in front of a monarch butterfly, like a mural. And I don't know if Laundrie supposedly took those pictures or what, which is kind of creepy that they keep showing these pictures of her with these monarch butterfly wings. And if you look into MK Ultra and you look into all the things with the MK Ultra and monarch butterflies as symbolism, and the cover of fucking magazines and books, holy shit. You know what I mean? It's just a fucking rabbit hole that I really am afraid to go down, but I'm already seeing the rabbit hole coming to fruition, and people are going to start doing videos about it, because once you put this young lady in front of the monarch butterfly for the symbolism, as kind of these signature photographs of her before she was killed, that's going to open up a whole fucking chain of thought with people that are into that MK Ultra stuff, which is a real thing, by the way. You know what I mean? And yes, Chungus. I mean, yes, correct. MK Ultra programming. So if you look into Britney Spears and people are saying free Britney, look into the Britney Spears interview with Diane Sawyer from 15 years ago, where Britney looks like she's hearing voices in her head, or she's being told what to say. I'm not making this shit up. It's on the record. Look at Al Roker freezing in place when someone mentioned the Holy Spirit on the fucking Today Show or Good Morning America, whatever the fuck it was. I'm not making this stuff up. The Beyonce Jay-Z video. See, I can name these things. I can rattle them off in about 5 seconds, but people will hear it, but they won't actually do the research. They won't look it up. But if you just simply look up MK Ultra, celebrity video on YouTube, I don't have the videos. I didn't make them. They're there. I'm not making that shit up. It exists. And that's why I hate bringing up certain topics with people that are limited in their thoughts. I mean, I remember bringing up the Mandela effect theory with a friend of mine, And I caught him on 3 or 4 Mandela effects, like, the Berenstein Bears thing, or whatever the fuck I said, the Rodney King quote, can't we all just get along? Can we all just get along for the women and the kids? I caught him on 3 or 4 things. And then he tried to make it seem like I had just invented it. It's like, no, asshole. It exists, okay? Thousands and millions of people are talking about this Mandela effect. Yeah, the Al Roker thing was fucked up. Hollywood is sleazy. Yes, yes, yes. Well, here's the thing, Eric, just to defend Hollywood for a bit. I can't say that I've ever been in a major motion picture in LA, Los Angeles, but I have worked with Meryl Streep. I have worked with Elizabeth Shue, Wesley Snipes, Mario Van Peebles, and I did quite well for myself, and nobody compromised my will. Okay. So I get a little defensive when people say Hollywood scum, because maybe it is, but my experience has been pretty good. I've had more luck and more respect from the major motion picture industry than I had for the pro wrestling from the pro wrestling industry. I'll tell you that much, Eric. So there you have it. All these wonderful things. Here's the big epic point, guys. As we come up on the 30-minute mark, and if you came in late, I suggest you go back. Yeah, Weinstein, sure. I'm creeped out. Look, I listened to a whole podcast. The summer of 2020 or 2020, I was listening to a lot of podcasts. And if you go to your Apple Podcasts or whatever the fuck, there was a whole podcast series on Weinstein. I'm listening, not Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein is who I'm talking about. There was a whole thing on chasing Cosby. I listened to all of that. A friend of mine uh, talks about Bill Cosby was set up, and a friend of mine has that point, but maybe he was set up and still guilty. That's the thing with that case. You can be guilty and still be set up. Doesn't make one or the other different. But in any event, Felicia Rashad was happy. She was happy when he got out of jail. What else? We can think about these things. We can let these things get into our minds. And then at the end of the day, you take a look out your fucking window, and it's a sunny day. The sun, the trees, who the fuck knows? You know what I mean? Now, I did want to mention who knows about Cosby. I did want to mention this View thing. God, I'm banging out all these fucking mini rants in one fucking load of crap. But it happened on Friday. If you guys, I do watch The View, to be honest with you, and I tape it. I usually skim through the commercials. I skip through the boring parts. For some reason, I like that show because I do like Whoopi Goldberg. I do like, Joy's been there forever. She's my least favorite. When The View first started, they had a couple of women from Rhode Island. Meredith Vieira and the Republican blonde chick who married the football player were all Rhode Island women. I just like the goddamn show. I don't know what to tell you. So they were supposed to have Kamala Harris, the vice president, on, and then they had this COVID fucking emergency. And then the show went into like, I don't want to say, it went into like a slapstick mode. They had to interact with the audience. It was very odd, but they did their best. They tried. But I just said, man, is this some type of way of like not getting a full interview out of this lady? Like, what the fuck's going on around here? So any goddamn way, here's to you. Well, folks, it's been a fun rant. You're right, Cosby was. Yeah, there was some type of speech that Cosby had. Eric saying Cosby was outspoken with issues in the black community. There was some type of speech that he had like 4 or 5 years before the shit hit the fan. Oddly enough, folks, I saw Bill Cosby perform as part of this like day-long motivational speech thing. There was some type of fucking scam or some type of fucking come hither thing. So in any event, I have seen Bill Cosby live. Terry Bradshaw was there. Interestingly enough, Bradshaw was the last speaker. Cosby was second to last. So it was sad, to see Cosby go down. But the other sad thing is if those accusations were accurate, and listening to the Chasing Cosby thing, you would think that they were. The guy did some pretty creepy shit. So just listen to, if you can tolerate it, listen to Chasing Cosby, and you might have a more informed opinion. I told my friend who was a Cosby kind of apologist or defender or whatever the fuck, I said, listen to the Chasing Cosby podcast before you make your final verdict. Because, he probably was set up, but he probably was guilty. Okay, folks, Mike Messier, see if there's any last thing. Okay, we're going to get going. Eric with the final word. Thank you very much. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel.